That's it, nice and easy. Just keep using teleport. Perfect, perfect. Alright, now as long as it doesn't use tackle. Clefairy spoiled me. Hi there, and welcome to yet another Pokemon Red solo run. Last time we did Clefairy, and this time we're gonna do Krabby. If you're here watching this, it's probably because you're one of my friends, but on the off chance that you are new, please hit the subscribe button so you can get notifications whenever I upload more challenges like this, and if you do happen to like the video, I would appreciate a like. Anyways, pretty much immediately after we pick up our Krabby, we're gonna have some problems. I went ahead and gave the rival Bulbasaur because I figured that would make the run more challenging, and I was not wrong about that. Right off the bat, the battle takes over 3 minutes to complete. An obvious reason for this, of course, is the fact that it has an unfavorable type matchup, but there's another thing that we need to talk about whenever it comes to Krabby as well. This is the type of Pokemon where in the areas where its stats are good, they are very, very good. But in the areas where its stats are bad, they are extremely, extremely bad. One look at that special stat should tell you absolutely everything you need to know about how challenging this run is going to be going forward. As you can see if you're paying attention to the run thus far, I just barely made it through the first route before a Pidgey nearly took me out. That does not bode well for the rest of the run. Another challenge facing Krabby is the fact that its move pool is relatively shallow in comparison to the Clefairy that we used in the last run. While Clefairy could learn a multitude of differently typed moves, Krabby can only have access to normal, water, and ice type attacking moves. Given the fact that whether or not a move is considered physical or special in Generation 1 is determined by its typing, and the only physical type moves that Krabby can capitalize on are going to be the normal type moves, we've got a little bit of an issue on our hands. You might be tempted to think that because the only types that really resist normal in this generation are rock or ghost, we don't really have much of a problem, but it's actually an enormous problem, and you'll see a little bit more about what I'm talking about coming up. Right off the bat, whenever I get up to Pewter City, I decide to go fight this junior trainer instead of going straight to Brock because I wanted the experience points. Now, it goes without saying that I am utterly confident that if we were to fight Brock right now, we would probably win. Even though Bubble isn't a particularly damaging move, and even though Krabby's special is very, very low in this generation, that's still a ×4 weakness against enemies that don't have great special defense. That being said, this battle that I expected to be relatively easy because the opponents were weak to water were actually not easy to take down whatsoever. I mean, sure, Krabby is a lower level than its opponents, but whenever we have a type matchup like this, you sorta just expect it to go in the water type Pokemon's favor. But I can confidently say that I tried out this battle many, many times hoping to get the right rolls to get past this trainer, and I just couldn't do it. In the end, I did end up needing to grind up a little bit so that I could take on the junior trainer. Again, I probably could have just fought Brock and got it over with so I could proceed with the run, but if I was going to struggle this much with a favorable type matchup this early on in the run, I wanted to make sure I had as much experience as necessary to struggle less later on. It did end up being a little bit of a nail biter, but in the end we won and proceeded straight to Brock without so much as even healing. Now, whenever it comes to the Brock fight, there's really not much to say. I was pretty accurate in my assessment that it was going to be a fairly easy time. Went in with a couple of bubbles and Brock stood absolutely no chance. A far cry from our Clefairy experience in the last run. With Brock out of the way, I proceed to Mountain Moon, where Krabby tears through absolutely every single rock Pokemon that stands between us and Cerulean City. I had struggled on a few of the trainers in the route before, and I wanted to make sure yet again that I got enough experience so that whenever I came to the Cerulean Gym, I might actually stand a chance against them. But as you can see from the way that this battle pans out, we're not really in a good spot here. Even trying to rely on some bide strategies to get a little bit of extra damage doesn't really do what we need it to do because, well, we're taking damage. Judging by how much trouble we're having with this random trainer in the gym, our chances of beating Misty at this stage are pretty unlikely, but I do end up trying it out one more time just to see if I can kinda play around with the rolls a little bit to get a more favorable outcome. In the end, though, it ends up with pretty much exactly the same results. I can deal some damage, I can take a couple of them out, but I'm going to sustain so much damage in the meantime that it's not really worth trying to continue. So since the gym is giving us trouble, I decide to go fight my rival, see if there's maybe something I can do here, and I end up with much the same experience as I had in the gym. Again, there's a little bit that I can do. I can usually get past the Pidgeotto. The Abra isn't going to do anything because all it knows is teleport, but the Rattata was not going to let me through. Whether or not it used Tackle, which it was still fast enough to hit me with before I could do anything, or Quick Attack, I was going to go down to that rat every single time, and right behind the rat was an Ivysaur waiting in the wings to use a grass attack and snipe me anyways. So this is another battle that I end up giving 2 attempts to see if I can get some favorable rolls, but when the second attempt goes even less favorably than the first one, I decide that it's time for some good old-fashioned grinding. Something amazing happens to Krabby at level 20. It learns Vice Grip. We are gifted with our first physical attack for the entire run, and guess what? It absolutely shreds. As soon as I got that move, I healed up and went straight to the gym, and without exaggeration, there was not a single thing in here that could stand up to Patty. It's not exactly like you need me to narrate, you can just watch the video and see for yourself, but there was no stopping this crap. We walked into the water-type gym with a water-type Pokemon and proved that they are as powerful as Misty thinks that they are. I did actually end up getting a little bit nervous with the Starmie, because the first thing that she did was use an X defend, but with a couple of Leers, we were able to open up her defenses enough to let Vice Grip take out the majority of her health and survive by the skin of our teeth. In addition to getting our second badge, there was a very important thing that happened here. We got Bubble Beam, which was going to be our best water-type move for a good chunk of the run. And since Misty had been so easy to dispatch, I figured, hey, let's go fight the rival again and see if we get better luck. As you may have already guessed, Patty just shreds through basically the entire team in only a couple of hits each. Pidgeotto goes down without so much as getting a sand attack off on us, Abra goes down in 1 hit, Rattata similarly goes down in 1 hit, and Bulbasaur does manage to get the Vine Whip, but we are too durable to take down that easily. With the rival taken down, we make our way to the SSN, where we pick up another very important TM, that being Body Slam. Don't get me wrong, Vice Grip was a very welcome addition to the roster, but Body Slam is simply more powerful and more reliable. There's no better example of this than the Rival 3 fight, where we walk in with Body Slam and continue to body the entire team in 1 or 2 hits each. Like I was saying earlier, the things that Patty's bad at, Patty is very bad at, but the things that Patty is good at, she is very, very good at. So our rival goes down, and now we have access to the Cut HM. We go talk to the Cut Master, get the HM, head out, and go straight to Diglett Cave, because yet again, I failed to catch a Paris. Now there's good news and bad news whenever it comes to this Diglett. The good news is that we caught it pretty easily. The bad news is that it can't actually learn Cut. See, I was looking at Bulbapedia and didn't realize that it can only learn Cut in yellow version, so I had mistakenly caught it with the intention of teaching it both Cut and Dig. I actually had to go back, catch an Oddish, and once that was done, I was able to enter the gym. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I went into this fight very confident, simply because Body Slam had been absolutely destroying everything in its path, but Raichu outspeeds, and of course with Thundershock and our low special, there is not a whole lot that we can do to defend against that. We basically just had to fight him over and over again until we got the favorable outcome, which was not always guaranteed because Voltorb was not actually always a 1-hit KO, it was a range. But eventually, after some failures, we do get the right run where we go in, Voltorb decides to use Screech, gives us a badge boost, we knock it out, Pikachu goes down, and we end up taking out the Raichu in a couple of hits as well, because it used an X speed in the beginning. Lieutenant Surge's defeat brings us to Rock Tunnel, where this time I actually remembered to bring repels. Can you believe it? Neither can I. We get through pretty quick, head over to Celadon immediately, grab some proteins so we can boost Patty's attack a little bit more, and then immediately go up to the roof, get some fresh waters, and get the TM for Ice Beam. Now, is Ice Beam particularly useful for Krabby? Well, kind of. I mean, it's good enough that it's going to deal some damage, but in the end, it's not going to be the most used special move. It's pretty much there exclusively for grass types, which are usually still actually going to survive the attacks simply because they have high special, and Krabby has very low special, and it is not a same type attack bonus sort of move. But the reason I'm showing you these rocket grunts here is because I wanted to demonstrate that even fully evolved Pokemon are not yet a threat to us in the run. We're simply overleveled to the extent that it doesn't matter, and our attack is so astronomically high that we're not really threatened by anything. Giovanni isn't too much of a threat either, as it turns out, because Bubble Beam can shred through his first 2 Pokemon like a 50 caliber bullet through moist plywood. Kangaskhan puts up a little bit more of a fight, but it still goes down in 3 hits to Body Slam. Something neat that happens after the Giovanni fight is we learn Crab Hammer, giving us a stronger stab move than Bubble Beam. Moving on to Erica, and once again I'm pretty confident that Krabby can win because I have Ice Beam, but as it turns out, I was sorely mistaken. Not only does Erica beat us, she beats us badly. There were quite a few different techniques that I employed in an attempt to beat her, but it was no easy task. I mean, even with guillotine strategies, which I'm not totally partial to, I feel like they're very luck-based, there was nothing that I could do against that victory bell. If you use Razor Leaf, it would get a crit every single time, and there's just nothing that Patty's going to be able to do to handle that sort of abuse. We do eventually end up getting the right run though, decide to head in with the body slam strategy for paralysis. Kinda works, we dodge a sleep powder which lets us pull through and get a crit on Tangela to take it out in one hit, and a guillotine on Vileplume guarantees the one-hit KO and the victory against our 4th gym leader. I know it's kind of a cheesy strategy, but I'm willing to do it because I'm just using Krabby the way that it was intended. We head back to Lavender Town so that we can fight our rival, and unsurprisingly, he kinda goes down without much of a fight. I mean, Gyarados takes a couple hits, but most everything else in the team is going down in 1 or 2 hits anyways. Kadabra even gets outsped, which I thought was astounding. Ivysaur yet again gets another lucky Vine Whip off, but you know what, it really didn't matter. Next up is the Pokemon Safari, where we can pick up Surf, which I actually don't teach to Krabby right away because I like the fact that Crabhammer has an increased critical hit chance. Koga is where we see the dreaded difficulty spike. Everything is caught up to us in levels now, so the only thing that we can do is wail on them and hope that things work out. However, we do end up learning Harden in the middle of the battle, which gives us a surprising advantage in the form of badge boosts. Like I explained in a previous video, there are badge boosts that you collect from certain badges in this game that will increase your core stats by 12.5%. However, whenever your stats are modified in battle, whether good or bad, it actually layers another badge boost on top of the original one. So each time we use Harden, not only are we raising our defense, but we are effectively raising our attack by 12.5% with each Harden that we use. This allows us the power that we need to shred through the rest of the team and barely hang on with 5 HP. With Koga down, I head to Sylph Company so that I can fight Rival 5, and this time I've got a new trick up my sleeve. There's a handy TM that you can pick up in Sylphco that I've been waiting for the entire game, and that is Swords Dance. You know how earlier I mentioned that badge boosts are a very useful strategy in this game? Well, something like Swords Dance for a Pokemon like Krabby is basically a cheat code. Krabby is extraordinarily physically powerful on its own anyways, so whenever you're talking about doubling its attack with Swords Dance and then benefiting from badge boosts, you've got a real force to be reckoned with on your hands. However, we were running into a little bit of a roadblock with Rival 5, that being that we were leveling up in the middle of the battle, which, if you remember from my previous video, if you level up in the middle of your battle, you lose all of those extra badge boosts and go back down to the normal amount of badge boosts that you're initially supposed to have for the badges that you possess. The biggest detriment of this, of course, is the fact that we get outsped by Venusaur, which, if it hits us with a single Razor Leaf, is going to utterly decimate our entire health bar. So what ends up being the winning strategy here? Well, it's actually a strategy that I don't generally like to employ, but I decided to use 1 rare candy before going into the fight. That way I would have less of a likelihood of leveling up in the middle of the battle. The fight kicks off pretty much the same as any of the others. I go in with 2 Swords Dances to set up my badge boosts and my attack boosts in the beginning and proceed to body slam everything that stands in my way. Alakazam is the only pain point because it still outspeeds us, but whenever we take it down and don't level it up, I know that we're good. 1 body slam takes out Venusaur and we have defeated Charlie. So next up is Giovanni, and he's still not really much of a threat. I mean, Nidorino we don't have any super effective attacks against, but a single Swords Dance and we can take him out with Body Slam. Kangaskhan as well. Rhyhorn, of course, is going to go down to a single Crabhammer, and Nidoqueen actually survives, even with it being a critical, but by the skin of our teeth, we managed to survive and then head off to Blaine. Yet again, I'm fighting Blaine before I fight Sabrina because I think that he's going to be easier, and I was not incorrect in that assessment. Without even needing to rely on Swords Dance for any badge boost shenanigans, we managed to shred through the entire team with relative ease. The only thing that had me a little bit nervous was Arcanine, but it went for Roar in the beginning, which didn't make any sense, and we have great physical attacks, so we handled the takedown with no problem. Sabrina's a bit of a different story though. This is where things get a little weird because we have terrible special defense. Did you see how that one Psychic almost killed us? That's really something to be concerned about. Just like everyone else that we've fought before though, I'm confident that there's a consistent strategy that we can deploy. So whenever I go into the battle again, I decide, hey, I'm just gonna take out this Kadabra right away and then try to set up on the Mr. Mime. And guess what? That strategy totally works. Mr. Mime just keeps using double slaps, so we're able to set up in its face, and by the time that it realizes what's going on, it is too late. We are able to kill everything in one hit, and even though Alakazam goes for the Reflect, it seriously does not matter. It doesn't have the defenses to handle our attacks, so we head on to Giovanni. Can you guess how this fight's gonna go? Can ya? I have one word for you. Crabhammer. Rhyhorn comes out, and then it goes down. Dugtrio comes out, and I miss, but then it goes down. Nidoqueen comes out, and then it goes down. Nidoking comes out, and it goes down too. And by now you know the drill, I'm not going to keep repeating myself. Yeah, basically his entire team was completely a non-issue for Krabby. Rival 6 is where things get a little bit dicey though, and you're gonna see why. Even with Swords Dance setup, we are seriously struggling against this team. It's not the beginning of it that really gets to us. It's the fact that we are going to, just like in the last rival battle, level up in the middle, and that's going to annihilate our badge boosts. What this of course means is that whenever Venusaur comes out, it's going to outspeed, it's going to get the Razor Leaf, it's going to get the critical hit. There is nothing that we can do about that. I did try the fight a couple of times to see if I could get a different outcome, but it was pretty universal. If I could get to Venusaur, which most of the time I could, I would get taken out by a Razor Leaf every single time. I even tried a strategy where I used less Swords Dances in the beginning, so that I could use more whenever it came time to go fight Alakazam, but all that did was have me accumulate more damage on the earlier Pokemon, so whenever it came time to square off against Alakazam, it just completely annihilated me. So what's a winning strategy here? Again, it's a strategy that I don't generally like to employ, but we're going to go ahead and try our hand at using some rare candies and see how that pans out. The magic number for this battle ends up being 52. That's right, I had to use 4 rare candies just so I could get past this fight. Sure, I could have gone and grinded the levels, which is what a lot of Pokemon players probably would have preferred that I did, but I'm going for time here. At this point, we are still on track to beat Clefairy's time, so I'm really invested in making sure that we get the best time possible. It ends up working out though. We don't level up until after we defeat the Venusaur, which goes down in a single hit to Body Slam, so I do feel like I made the right call here. So we're done with the core of the game, now we're on to the final 5 battles, and this is where things get kind of interesting. You might think that Lorelei would be a difficult opponent, but actually no, it's pretty easy. You pretty much just do what we've done against every opponent so far, which is set up with Swords Dance in their face and then Body Slam everything that comes between us and the end of the battle. There are a couple of points in the battle where things can go awry if I'm not taking care of things properly, but in general it's a very consistent fight. You know, as long as I don't get critical hits, I am taking everything out in 1 or 2 hits every single time. There is not really a threat here. Similarly, Bruno is not really anything that you need to be worried about. Whenever you get into his chambers, Onix is not going to do very much to damage you, so you can set up in his face with Swords Dance just as before, Crab Hammer him, and then you're set up for basically the rest of the fight. Now, I do level up in the middle of the battle, which makes me susceptible to hits from Hitmonlee, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to take me out in 1 hit anyways, and everything else still goes down in 1 hit, including the Hitmonlee itself. So we're opened up to Agatha, which is where the run stops dead in its tracks. Without exaggeration, I fought Agatha over 100 times, probably closer to 200 times. And bear in mind, my philosophy is the same as J-Rose's, which is if you're going to fight the Elite Four, you need to do that from the beginning of the Elite Four. You can't save in between Elite Four members. So every time that I went back to fight her, I had to get through the same boring battles that I know are consistent and I know are going to be wins over and over and over and over again, just for the chance to fight her. And I will tell you that in the vast majority of the battles against Agatha, I would get taken out in the first turn. Not literally in the first turn, mind you, but I would either get hypnosised or I would get confused, and at that point, it's over. There's nothing that you can do to touch Agatha with Krabby once that happens. Because not only is everything on her team going to be faster than Krabby, but Krabby has such horrible, pitiful special that even if he does get an attack out, it's not like you're hitting these things and taking them down in 1 hit. It's not like you're hitting them and taking them down in 2 hits. 3 hits is even a stretch sometimes. That's a range if we have full badge boosts. It's honestly a mess. So what you're seeing on your screen now is several attempts of me going back to fight her, using rare candies before, trying to find the right strategy to hit her with, and in the end, what we end up deciding is that my strategy is just not going to work. I need a little bit extra oomph if I want to get past her. So the strategy that I end up opting for in the end is actually one that you've probably seen other YouTubers use before, which is the Mimic strategy. All you gotta do is head to the Celadon City Pokemart, grab yourself a Pokédoll, head back over to Saffron and then talk to Copycat. She will provide you with the TM for Mimic, which we can use to lighten the load, kind of increase our odds a little bit. It's definitely not a proven system. It's not like it's going to work every single time, but it does give us some marginally better luck, which you're going to see here in just a moment. Now, you might be asking yourself, hey, Cab, you used Double Team in the last video, and that was what was able to get you past the Agatha roadblock. Krabby can learn Double Team, why don't you just teach that to Krabby? And I have an answer for you. See, the thing is that whenever I mentioned in my last video that Clefairy can learn Minimize, the reason that I was saying that was because I was likening it to Double Team. They're essentially an identical move in that generation. So whenever I say that Clefairy can learn Minimize on its own anyways, so I'm justified in using Double Team, what I'm trying to say is that that is the way the Pokemon is intended to be used. So when it comes to something like using Double Team on Clefairy for the badge boosts and also to raise my evasiveness, I feel like that's completely justified because that's actually how Clefairy is meant to be used. That's the intended use for that Pokemon. If I go teaching Double Team to every single Pokemon that I do this challenge with, all you're gonna get is the exact same video every single time. In the case of Krabby, yes, Krabby does not learn anything like Swords Dance naturally, but that is obviously the way that the Pokemon was intended to be used. Krabby is a Pokemon with a very clear advantage and disadvantage. Its advantage is its physical attack, its disadvantage is its special. So whenever it comes to Agatha, I need to start getting really creative with how I tackle her. And the way that I decided to get creative was, well, let's rely on the luckiest strategy that we can possibly think of. And that strategy in the end ends up being Hypnosis. Eventually, finally, we get the run against Agatha that we desperately needed. We start off the battle like we have with any others, we mimic Hypnosis, we put the Gengar to sleep, and we go to work on our Swords Dances. She does switch relatively early to Golbat, but we manage to put it to sleep as well, and then start getting to work with our moves. Now, you may have noticed that there are some changes to Patty at this point. I found that the sweet spot for levels was level 57. I also found that even on runs where I was about to beat her, I would run out of power points before I could do anything because Crabhammer just simply did not have the power points that I needed it to have in order to complete the battle. So I actually went and purchased Calciums to raise Patty's special, and then replaced Crabhammer with Surf. We also replaced Ice Beam with Blizzard so we could get a little bit of extra power, and finally, we beat Agatha. I cannot explain to you the euphoria that I was feeling when this happened. What you're seeing on my screen right now is a ×4 speed video of me just sitting there because I literally sprang up from my chair and started dancing around the house like an idiot. I had overcome levels of frustration that I had not felt while playing a Pokemon game since I was probably like 11 years old. It is actually embarrassing how giddy I was to have finally beaten this opponent, when probably all I needed to do was go grind like 5 or 10 levels, but there was a certain level of satisfaction in beating her that I just cannot describe with words. Doing it at that level, doing it with that strategy, it was extremely satisfying. Once I'm finally able to collect myself, I decide to head off to Lance. You know, obviously we finally beat Agatha, so maybe we'll be lucky enough to beat Lance, right? And as it turns out, that is exactly what we were. We were insanely lucky. There are a billion things that could have gone wrong with this battle. We were sitting at 40 HP for the majority of it, so a single Dragon Rage would have taken us out. I'm absolutely floored that Aerodactyl didn't beat us in speed, and all the blizzards that we used hit every single time. Like, there's seriously, the level of luck required to get through that battle the way that we did is almost unfathomable. But in the end, we did manage to pull through, so now the only thing standing between us and the end of the game is our rival. Now, would you believe me if I told you that we also beat this battle in a single attempt? It was actually insane. So we get 3 Swords Dance right off the bat. Pidgeot's using Whirlwinds and Mirror moves, so we're able to seal the deal with a Blizzard and a Surf. Alakazam comes out, uses a first turn recover for some reason, so we take it out with Double Edge. Rhydon goes down in a single Surf. And when Gyarados comes out, I employ a little bit of strategy. I use a Blizzard first because I saw how much Double Edge took out of my own HP in the last battle, so I was trying to account for that. Arcanine uses Leer, useless to us, that doesn't matter. so we take it down in a couple of surfs, and then Venusaur goes for the Solar Beam, sealing its fate to a single turn double edge, which leaves us with only 14 HP. If you think I sound excited, it's because I am excited. I was so juiced up whenever these battles happened, especially in this sort of succession. I mean, to finally beat Agatha and then beat both Lance and our rival at the same time is astronomically lucky. In the end, Patty makes it into the Hall of Fame at level 62, and we have beaten the game in 4 hours and 3 minutes. An insane time that I was not expecting. You know, I figured we might be able to kind of keep pace with Clefairy, but after how the beginning went and how much we struggled with certain aspects of the game, I really expected that it wouldn't actually beat Clefairy. I thought that we'd probably be closer to 4.5 hours, but I'm not complaining, you know, and I'm not going to do it again. If you were to ask me who did I like using more, Clefairy or Krabby, I would tell you instantly, Krabby kind of sucks in comparison. I was absolutely spoiled by Clefairy. You know, I'm convinced that Clefairy's Bubble Beam was actually more powerful than Krabby's Bubble Beam just because of how much higher its special was. There was almost no comparing the two. And you know what? There really is no comparing the two, because while we did use physical moves with Clefairy, for the most part, we banked on our special moves and the variety of typing that we could extrapolate with those moves. And I believe that whenever we finished that run, we actually didn't even have a physical move on Clefairy anymore. It was all special moves. Whenever it came to Krabby, we just could not afford to take advantage of the same sort of diversity. Even if we could, it could only learn water and ice type moves, which does help us quite a bit, but not nearly as much as, you know, Thunderbolt. If we could have learned Thunderbolt, it would have been game over, man. It would have been a lot easier, but no, man, with Krabby, all we had was our ice type moves, our water type moves, and our normal type moves. And I will say that our normal type moves carried us in this run. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'm releasing content like this all the time. I am a variety content channel, so you're going to see things that maybe you're not interested in, but these Pokemon Red solo runs are something that I plan to continue doing. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, or if you didn't like it, please leave a dislike. Either way, it helps me in the algorithm. I just want people to be able to see these because I work very hard on them and I spend a lot of time putting the videos together. I do have a Discord channel. Link is in the description of the video if you want to come by and say hi. We're a very small community right now because I'm not very popular. So if you saw my video, you liked it, you wanted to talk to me, you know, talk about Pokemon strategies or talk about different challenges you think I might, you know, be able to do, just go ahead and, you know, hit me up in the Discord. I'm always there and I'm always willing to talk to anybody who comes by. But that is it for this one. I will see you in the next video.